Every single year, something absolutely incredible happens right over our heads, and yet most of us never even see it. It's the Great Bird Migration, and today we're going to uncover its secrets. Seriously, think about it. While we're all tucked in bed, millions, literally millions of birds are up there navigating the night sky on these unbelievable journeys that can span entire continents. It's this massive, hidden river of life flowing in the dark. And some of these journeys are just staggering. Get ready for this number, 11,000 kilometers. That is the longest nonstop flight ever recorded for a bird, a record held by the amazing bar-tailed godwit. To put that into perspective, that's like getting on a plane in Alaska and flying all the way to New Zealand without ever landing. No stops, no food, no rest. So how on earth do they do it? Well, they essentially become flying fuel tanks, packing on so much fat that it can be over half their body weight. It's just an incredible feat of endurance. But how did we even figure any of this out? For centuries, where birds went in the winter was a total mystery. And let me tell you, it led to some pretty wild theories. For a long time, the biggest idea came from Aristotle, who just figured, maybe they hibernate like bears. But then, in 1822, this theory was completely shattered. A stork was found in Germany, and it had a spear, an African spear, stuck right in its neck. All of a sudden, boom, we had hard proof of long-distance travel. Today, of course, our tools are just a little more sophisticated. So this brings up the really big question. How in the world do they pull it off? How do they navigate thousands of kilometers with such incredible precision? Well, it turns out they have this amazing built-in toolkit, almost like a biological GPS. They use the sun and the stars as a compass, but they've also got these other senses that feel like superpowers. They can actually detect the Earth's magnetic field, they build mental maps of landmarks, and they can even use their sense of smell to find their way home. And this is where it gets truly mind-bending. Some research suggests a direct link between a bird's eye and the navigation center in its brain. The implication here is just stunning. Birds might not just feel the magnetic field, they might actually be able to see it, like a heads-up display layered over reality. So what we have here are these incredible natural navigators, honed by millions of years of evolution. But what happens when their ancient, finely tuned systems smash right into our modern, brightly lit world? To really understand the problem, we need to listen very, very closely to the night sky. Because there's a kind of secret signal up there, and it holds the key. You see, many migrating birds, especially the little guys like warblers and sparrows, make these short, high-pitched chirps as they fly. They're called nocturnal flight calls, and scientists think these calls act like a lifeline, helping the birds stay together as a flock and communicate when it's pitch black outside. But here's the crucial detail. Not every bird that flies at night uses these calls. Some of them fly in complete silence. And it turns out this one simple behavioral difference is literally a matter of life and death. To figure out why, scientists dug into 40 years of data on birds that had collided with lighted buildings. They were searching for a pattern, and what they found was unmistakable. The results were just so stark. Species that make those flight calls were found in the collision data way, way more often than they should have been. At the same time, the silent flyers were consistently found way less often. Using flight calls was an incredibly powerful predictor of collision risk. And I mean, look at this. The data shows a perfect correlation. Among the species that are found way too often in collisions, every single one of them uses flight calls. And among the species that are underrepresented, not a single one of them does. It's a crystal clear link. So what is the connection? Why would a communication tool that's meant to keep birds safe actually lead to such a deadly outcome? Well, what the research points to is a tragic feedback loop, a vicious cycle where a lifeline becomes fatal, but only when you add artificial light into the equation. A huge amount of this data came out of Chicago, which is a super bright city right on a major migratory flyway, a bird superhighway, basically. For 4 decades, researchers collected birds that had collided with buildings, especially massive illuminated structures like McCormick Place, which you can see right here. And from all this data, they pieced together the deadly mechanism. So it starts like this. First, birds are drawn in and get totally disoriented by the city's glow. Confused, they do what they're programmed to do.
They start making flight calls to try and find their flockmates. But instead of helping, these calls act like a siren, attracting other flight-calling migrants into the same dangerous, confusing area. So the social behavior that evolved to keep them safe now tragically amplifies the danger, drawing more and more birds into a fatal trap.
And this isn't an entirely new problem. All the way back in 1906, a naturalist watched as birds, disoriented by a massive lumberyard fire, flew straight into the blaze. He described seeing them burst into flame and fall. And the primary victims he identified? Song sparrows and dark-eyed juncos, two of the most frequent flight-calling victims of building collisions today. It's just a haunting reminder that in our brightly lit world, a behavior that was once all about connection can become a fatal vulnerability.